Hey, Pam, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Marcy, happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to join me because, we get questions a lot about the process for finances. And I think it's great that you're willing to spend the day and do a little overview so that we can, as we were saying before we went live, talk about the money and where it goes.
Right.
So,
And don't scare people like that. We're not going to be here all day.
well, you're right.
Okay.
So I've got some questions that you provided me, and I know you have some show and tell.
I do.
So why don't we just launch right in? When folks start as a chapter, they get something like things to know right away. But sometimes, if you've been with the foundation for a period of time, that email or letter gets lost or it might not be transferred. So we wanted to have this piece that would reside on our website,
Yep.
reside on our learning management system that anybody could access to help them answer some questions. So when a friends group is formed or an existing friends group, they get a URL to allow them to raise money on our website. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's correct. So we have Neon CRM is our constituent relationship management program, which is a really exciting term also. But that's where everything is managed. All the donations are managed through this constituent relationship management thing called Neon. So we have a love-hate relationship with it, I will admit. But the one thing that Neon does well and that keeps them in our pocket is the fact that not only can we offer chapters a way to accept money and donations, but it also gives them a way to find out who those online donors are in a relatively easy way. So that's the things to know right away that I send to people is based on getting you the link that you can put on your website or Facebook page to collect the money, and then another link where you can find out where that money came from. So that's
Can this link be turned into a QR code so that if they want to put it elsewhere?
absolutely. So it QR codes so that you can do flyers, and that QR code will take you right to, in this case, this is Cherry Springs donation form located in two different places on our website already. And then Cherry Springs puts it on their Facebook page and their website. So if somebody visits their website, clicks on that, this is where they come to make their donation. And I
Awesome.
think these are the new forms that Neon's come up with. It's I'm working slowly through all the chapters to get them their pretty form like this that's a little more branded for a chapter instead of just being the old PPFF form that it has been for a very long time. So
Excellent. And as a chapter, do they have any influence on what is said in the little text box there?
not only have influence, but are encouraged.
So they can
Yep.
make it their own.
Yes, absolutely. I will put up what, probably in most cases, it's a copy and paste from the old page. But yeah, you take a look at your form and you don't like the way it looks or reads, if I've chosen a picture that you would prefer that I not use, whatever, that part is absolutely up to you. This part about I can even change the amounts if you don't like the amounts that I've chosen. This is kind of boilerplate default. This stuff down here is on every page. Hopefully I remember to put your logo up in the corner. I looked at one yesterday and realized I hadn't put the logo in. Link down here to your Facebook and website. And somebody questioned what the little login thing is. For a very long time, we didn't have the login activated, but there's been improvements thanks to Neon that the login process is a little better. So if somebody does decide they want to go in and as they click through these screens and make their donation, the option is there to create an account in Neon so that whenever you want to come back in, you can always use your same login. I like it because it will help reduce, we hope, duplicate accounts that I don't have to merge them. But yeah, you don't have to log in. It's there if it bothers somebody, I can take that off. But it's kind of a neat thing, I think.
And we do prefer the branded chapter logo that also acknowledges that you're part of the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation, because that's how you exist in order to raise funds. We are the registered organization within the state. So that's great. How do they know who gave them a donation? How would a chapter know who gave them a donation?
Well, there's that second URL that I provide allows for a donor report to be made. So it's kind of a live thing, and once you have your URL for your report, you can run that report anytime and with a password protected report, so that you get it from me, and I share it with the chair and the treasurer of each chapter. But yeah, so it's real live. Most
So
of it.
let's say I make a donation to Cherry Springs. So what happens when I go online and I make that donation?
There's an automatic email that goes out right away, and that's just an automatic receipt from me on to back to you saying thank you. And I have one that I can show you, and then that is also blind copied to the chair and the treasurer.
Okay.
So this one.
So I'd like you, that's what you were saying, in real time, they know that they are alerted that somebody has given them a donation.
Right. And if you as chair or treasurer are not receiving this email, a copy of this email when a donation is made, and maybe it's hard to tell that in the void, but kind of be aware now that you're watching this video that you should be getting it. If you're not getting it, let me know, because it may be a spam issue, in which case there's very little I can do about it. I do make the receipt come from my email address and from Marcy as the president, but I do that so that both the donor knows that there's a real person they can contact if there's something seems amiss to them, or it's not like an info at or a no reply at or an office at that would automatically be flagged as spam. So, you kind of figure that if it's coming from a real person, it should get through spam. The other reason you're not getting it perhaps is that I haven't updated the blind carbon copy because you've changed treasurers or chairs, and I try and make that change as soon as I know that it's happened. But I'm not perfect, and I sometimes forget. So it does not hurt my feelings if you send me an email or call me and say, Pam, I'm the new treasurer. Would you please change that?
And that's why it's so
okay
important to alert us when you do change officers, so that we can make sure, or in a case that if your officers don't have access to email on a readily basis, that maybe we adapt. So, please do communicate. They automatically get that letter. Do you encourage chapters to also acknowledge donations that they receive?
Yes. So by policy and I guess IRS regulation, PPFF acknowledges anything over the amount of $100. So we send a written letter then, in addition to this automatic just email receipt, to anyone who's donated over $100, whether that's by check or one of these online gifts. If it's under 100, we don't do that, but we certainly encourage the chapter to acknowledge them themselves, because somebody who's been kind enough to give you money, you want to make sure that you're saying thank you, or that you may never hear from them again, and that's certainly not what you want.
Yes. Well, and let's talk about the elephant in the room. We've had some folks that's through the course of time since we started working with Neon that have said, well, I don't not necessarily want an online donation because I'm losing some money because they're processing a credit card.
This is true, and that's a fact of life. I think what's important to know is that the credit card fee that's assessed against an online donation is not charged by PPFF. That's a credit card charge that is on that credit card no matter where you use it. So I think one of the interesting things about making an online gift like this is that it's very transparent. When you use that donation form that's on the website, you get to the end and it'll say, would you like to contribute 69 cents to cover the cost of the credit card? And it gives you that option that you say, oh, okay, I can pay $10.69 on my $10 donation. And then that fee is covered. And I've frankly been surprised by the number of people who just do that. it's, I think they look at it and think that's negligible. So that goes back to the chapter. So that
Yeah.
if somebody's given you $10 and you would normally have gotten charged 70 cents on it, so you'd only get $9.30, only $9.30, that's covered. You'll get the $10, credit card fee goes to the credit card people, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that it's the ease of making a donation, and that donor may not have engaged otherwise, had they not had the opportunity to do it via credit card. And we have a generation of donors that are coming up that are not check writers. They are Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, Apple Pay, credit card. So they're using alternative methods. When somebody's making a donation through the PPFF website, are there other ways to do that? So can they do it through like a Venmo or an Apple Pay, or what are the different options for people?
Well, I'm not sure that they can, because I think we're restricted to a credit card or an ACH, which is an electronic check. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't, unless they use the QR code. But still, I'm showing my age, but I don't think you can do that unless you're actually entering those magic 16 numbers and the magic secret code at the end. So,
Okay. So what can you share with us what a report looks like?
okay, so a report is a very important, the important things, because once the money's come in, you want to know who those people are. I've just told you that you should be acknowledging them. Maybe you haven't gotten that email, so you're not keeping track of them that way, but you want to get the report. It is a real-time report. So money comes in, report is generated. Whenever you click that button, it will show you, what you've gotten up to the minute, with a little disclaimer or two that we'll get to in a minute. But I can take you to a test screen, I think. Let's go over here to my little tabby here.
It's coming up. It's kind of tiny.
So once you use the URL that I give you for your particular report, and it's a bit.ly link, because if you would see the original, well, maybe you can see up at the very top in the, where the URL would go. All of those little numbers and letters and symbols and all that is what the URL actually is. So I give it a bit.ly link so that you can get to it a little easier. And then you put in the code that I give you, and it gives you, oops, not that, a report. So this
Okay.
shows,
We didn't move, so we're still on a screen. There we go.
here we go. Okay, so share this tab instead. So here we go. So all right, so this is what you actually see. So it's who the people are, what they gave, when they gave it, and then the campaign will be Friends of Cherry Springs or Friends of Promised Land. The purpose is what it is, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a nice addition to the most recent forms that was not available before. When they make a memorial gift, if you click a button when you make a memorial gift, it will give you a place where you can then fill in who should get an acknowledgement of,
Nice.
someone's passed. And yeah, that's really nice. It used to be that was kind of a mystery, and I would have to chase people and say, oh, we got this memorial gift. Is there someone that we should be sending an acknowledgement to? And sometimes we would get that information and sometimes we wouldn't. So now it's built in. So I think that's really terrific. And then you'll see up here the magic codes where you can download this report and use it perhaps for mail merge to send all these nice people letters, however you want to do it. Make a membership database that you're organizing or whatever. But it is a really terrific way to figure out what's happening.
So they can access this at any point in time, but this isn't necessary synchronous with the reports that Bernadette sends.
Correct. So that's where we get the kind of the little bit of a disclaimer on the real time. So there are a few things that might get in the way of it being instantaneously accurate. And one of those things is, people give money lots of different ways when they give money. Many people will give money, come in through the PPFF donation button, and they'll make a gift of $25. And it says PPFF general donations. I get a queue every morning of everyone who's given money, and I go through them one at a time. I clean up things like they capitalize weird things. I look upon their record in Neon as being the basis for sending someone a letter, because in many cases it is. And you really don't want a letter to say, Mr. and Mrs. John Jones, and all that.
Stop shouting.
Yes, exactly. So the spelling has to be corrected. And then I'll go into the actual donation or other payment and say, okay, well, all right, this says PPFF. Sometimes they'll include a little note in the comments button that says Friends of Promised Land. And I'll go, oh, okay, it's not really a PPFF donation. It belongs to the Friends of Promised Land. So then I have to manually change that from PPF to Friends of Promised Land. So until that happens, you might be running a report, that money's not there. When I get in there and I make that change, then it appears on your report. So that's one way it's a little bit quirky. The other quirk of timing is, yes, Bernadette's reports. So we have a list. The money comes in, it's money, it's paid, but it's not real money in terms of you receiving it in your account until it's paid by Neon to our bank. And that happens every Monday. So in those weird dead spaces between the payout coming to the bank and me getting I'll show you what one looks like. It's kind of interesting. Let's see if I have, here's so all the money comes in from Neon, and it's in one big long list of all the transactions that happen during a week. And one by one, I take them and I consolidate them. So everything that you can see here, these are the friends payments that came in during that week, the different funds that came in, memberships for PPFF, all of that stuff. I do that from the big conglomeration of money that comes in in that payout, and I send it to Bernadette just like this. So then she goes through and says, oh, okay, here the Friends of Beltsville get $41.46. That goes into your account and then appears on your statement that she sends to you. So, I mean, as you can imagine, in the interim between her preparing the statement, her getting this payout from me, there might be a little bit of time. So you'll get your statement and you'll say, wait a minute, my report says I should have $400 and Bernadette says I only have $350. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is that money hasn't quite hit yet. It's not an error, it's a timing thing. So I think technology, you have to take everything with a little tiny grain of salt, but it does generally work. So
yes. And Bernadette is sending out her reports on a quarterly basis unless you have made arrangements with her otherwise.
Yeah, right. So yeah. And she tries to get them out as timely as possible. Payout is what payout is. But I think if you have any questions at all about anything, you should just pick up the phone. And people have, and they say, wait a minute, I think I have this amount of money. Why is this not showing up this way? And then we can say, well, it will next week. Just keep running that report and keep communicating with your donors, and everything's hunky-dory.
And I say patience in general. I mean, you're obviously, with what you're sharing, that you're managing a lot of data, as is Bernadette, because it's not just friends groups. There are accounts for Parks and Forests, there's accounts for the needs list. Bernadette has 190 accounts or so that she's managing, and there are a lot of different links or ways for people to give through the website. Not just your friends page, but maybe you're raising money for a playground and you've created a special page to raise money for that playground. So there are a lot of moving pieces at any given time. So I think it's important to remember that patience is important. Tis a virtue.
Yes, we try and do things as quickly as humanly possible, but sometimes as quickly as humanly possible is a day or two, and hopefully we can be forgiven for that.
Because after all, we are humans. um, I'm looking down. We had discussed some key points we wanted to make sure we wanted to touch on. I believe we've hit most of them. We're at about 20 minutes. Um, sorry, all of a sudden everybody decides they want to call me back. So I'm sorry if you're hearing the phone ring. I'm letting people know that I'll catch up with them later. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we touch on specifically as it relates to finances, donations through the website and how people can access them?
I don't think so. I think that really did cover everything. Membership is another issue that we want to talk about at some point. I know that some of the chapters do have their own membership programs, and managing that can be interesting. I'm sorry that Neon doesn't allow that, although I have a couple of ideas on how we might be able to make that work. We'll, stay tuned for perhaps another video, and we'll see if we can make it happen. But they are doing improvements to the system all the time, and sometimes they're really good and helpful for us, and I guess sometimes they're good and helpful for other people. So it's not all about us, really.
What?
What?
Rats.
But yes, anything that we can do to help you manage it, we will certainly do the best that we can and come up with ideas and see where things go.
And if you have a thought or an idea, don't hesitate to reach out to Pam, you reach out to Bernadette, reach out to myself. Our goal is to help you, to make it as easy as possible for you to do what you are trying to achieve, and keep us all in a space that's above board and following the guidelines that we have to follow as a nonprofit and as being registered in the state to raise money. So we appreciate
I think
you.
that's one thing that kind of maybe everybody needs to keep in mind is that we know that you're members of nonprofits in your own community, and maybe they don't follow the same kind of protocols that we do, and so you think, well, why do we have to go through all of this? I don't do that for the local fire company.
X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. But that's too bad. We follow the law. So
yeah. So it's really important. It's really important because you're functioning under our nonprofit umbrella that all the money is accounted for coming in and all the money is accounted for going out. And
Absolutely.
Makes the audit process much easier. It keeps us all able to do what we're doing and making our parks and forests, amazing places.
Amen.
Excellent.
Thank you, Marcy. I really appreciate you helping walk me through all of this. And if anybody has any questions, get in touch.
Well, thank you, Pam, and thank you all who are watching for all that you do for these places in the landscape. We know that time is precious, and we do appreciate that you give your time to that park or forest where you're volunteering. So thank you. Bye.